Do you ever finish a 2-hour-long movie, go grab some food from the kitchen, and as you open the fridge, you think to yourself, Batman? Wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense at all. Well, you were a victim of the old plot hole. Yep, that's right. We're going to be talking about plot holes that totally ruin these movies. Just a few seconds of contemplation is all it takes for you to become convinced that the entire narrative no longer makes sense. And yes, we're not sparing your childhood favorites either by going for Toy Story first.
Repeat, resume your positions now!
Andy's coming, everybody! Back to your places, hurry! Where's my ear? Who's in my ear? Did you see my ear?
A lot of the plot and setup of Toy Story don't make much sense when you think about how Buzz genuinely believed he was a real space ranger, because he froze whenever Andy or another human was around. Like, what the heck is Buzz? Pick one or the other. Would a real space ranger freeze when he's up against a giant? On the topic of giants, this giant plot hole in The Dark Knight Rises made absolutely no sense.
World ended.
The CIA aircraft was completely ambushed by a cargo plane flying directly above, and no one noticed? It's the CIA! Are you telling me that the US government just didn't have any working radars that day? Or were all the operators on holiday? Either way, as cool as that scene is, it doesn't make sense that Bane's crew would roll up right next to the CIA's plane undetected like that. I guess Bane must have known their holiday schedules. But we're not done with Christopher Nolan's work yet.
Thank you. Well, it's very kind of you to say. I mean, to be honest, we only go into a film if we know that we've got a story to tell. And
this other plot hole has to do with the stock market attack in The Dark Knight Rises. Bruce Wayne's fingerprints are used on the same day the attack takes place. Don't you think people are gonna notice that Bruce Wayne wasn't there during an attack that probably got a lot of media attention? And why on the same day too? Considering there was an attack, the stock market executives might be kind enough to call any odd transactions into question then. Like, would someone say, hey Bruce, you made a whole bunch of awful trades today, and now that I think about it, I didn't see him in the attack that was all over the news either. All Daggett needed to do was make those bad stock decisions on literally any other day. But talking about bad decisions, why did the directors choose to make the big bomb a fusion bomb? We see the brilliant Dr. Pavel turn Wayne's fusion reactor into a bomb. Fusion bombs are impossibly hard to make, let alone convert a reactor into a bomb. That's one of the good things about fusion in the first place. It can't be weaponized. Scientifically speaking, it is impossible for a fusion reactor to transform into an explosive, but I suppose Dr. Pavel is that brilliant. And even if it were a fission reactor, it's still a long shot at converting that bad boy into a bomb. I guess we can't expect everything to follow The Expanse's level of adherence to physics. But regardless of how the bomb came into being, it still resulted in one of the best endings we've seen in cinema history. Talking about adherence to principles, can we talk about the lack of adherence to a coherent plot The Rise of Skywalker had? In a very infamous scene, Poe Dameron remarks on Palpatine's return in a laughably comical way. As if he's part of the audience, and he's just as disappointed in this plot development. The return of Old Sheev is one of the biggest plot holes in Star Wars history, and is one that is simply not explained in the film. How did he even survive the 1,000-meter plunge Darth Vader put him through in The Return of the Jedi? The dark side is a path to many abilities, but it does not include self-revival. The whole irony of Darth Plagueis' tragedy was that he could save others from death, but not himself. I guess Palpy is just built differently. And can we talk about the whole deal with the Sith dagger? The dagger is a solution to this obtuse puzzle, where you have to stand at a specific spot and aim at the Death Star's wreckage. So you're saying that the wreckage hasn't been eroded or moved in all these years, and this supposedly ancient dagger is used alongside several decades worth of wreckage? It just doesn't add up, Chief. But talking about things that don't add up, the whole setup of The Matrix.
Now get up.
while very intriguing, does not make complete sense. So the evil robots use human brains to power themselves because humanity made it permanently cloudy, right? But why did they have to use humans specifically? Couldn't they have just used chimps, cows, or any other low-maintenance animal? The Matrix for cows would have been so simple, just a grassland for grazing. There's no need to have such a convoluted system where the one has to exist for it to function. The Matrix is an amazing trilogy of movies, but it would have been nice if they addressed this plot hole. I suppose even the best series have a few fumbles. Harry tries to convince pretty much all of Hogwarts that he really did see Voldemort.
For me, as though it were only yesterday. I confess myself disappointed.
Of course, nobody believed him about Voldemort being back, but couldn't they have at least used a truth serum on him to confirm if Harry was telling the truth? Or even better, they could have just used the Pensieve on our boy Potter and avoided the whole boy who cried wolf situation altogether. And while we're talking about Harry Potter, did Harry and the gang suddenly forget about magical forms of transport in the Deathly Hallows? They were afraid of being tracked if they used any sort of magical transport, but couldn't they have just taken a cab or an actual train? It just seems like a complete oversight, really. But that's enough about our favorite wizard movies. Let's talk about some oversights in the classic movie known as Aliens.
Talk to me.
Talk to me, Paul!
While it is a fantastic science fiction horror film, it could have paid more attention to the science, like in this one scene where Ripley opens the airlock. All she did was hold onto a ladder with one arm, and somehow managed to resist the extreme pressure and force of all the air being vented out into space. And if that wasn't enough, there was a xenomorph queen hanging onto her foot as well. She must have some superhuman strength to pull something like that off. Or, you know, it was written like that for dramatic and plot convenience purposes, even if it didn't make sense. Like, how did the xenomorph queen manage to get on the Sulaco in the first place? It's implied that she hid in the landing gear, but she's nowhere to be seen during the exterior shots of the dropship. I guess you've got to throw a little bit of logic out the window when you want to have some fun. But even if that wasn't the worst moment of logic going missing, what about the fact that there was already humans living on the planet where the distress beacon was? Yes, the company had already set up shop on the planet and had people working there, and yet none of them bothered to check out the distress signal before the Nostromo crew? We don't know for sure, but if they did, maybe the movie could have gone differently, or maybe we wouldn't have had a movie after all. Either way, something like that shouldn't have slipped under James Cameron's radar. Those were some of the worst plot twists that ruined these movies. Which one annoyed you the most? See you in the next one.